Stranger Things season 5 episode 1, we are now going to see the complete breakdown. That is, the episode name is Crawl. We see the series just returns to its roots with a very haunting flashback that we see, that is to November 12, 1983. And we see a young and very de-aged Will Byers that is just hiding in the upside down library shortly after his abduction in the pilot. We see Will is running for his life from a Demogorgon, and he fires his shotgun and sings, "Should I stay or should I go?" to keep his focus, and eventually climbing a tree to escape. But he falls and he is knocked unconscious. And we see the connection later in this series. The Demogorgon drags him into the center of the library where the Vecna awaits. So Vecna lifts Will with his tentacle and whispers that at long last we can begin and we shall do such beautiful things together. The infection, that is Vecna, forces a tentacular proboscis into Will's mouth. As we see, the scene is just very haunting, uh, and injecting him with a very sentient, that is a black liquid. That retroactively explains the slug that the Will coughed up in the season 1 and confirmed that Will always was meant to be the Vecna's primary vessel for the invasion that we later on understand. We see in the second part the story, after the scene, that the story skipped to November 3, 1987, roughly 19 months after the earthquake and Hawkins' transformed landscape. Actually, the MACZ, because the town is under a total military quarantine that is known as the Military Access Central Zone, or the Big Mac, or the MACZ, whatever that is called. So we see that massive steel plates cover the rift, and the area is just heavily quarantined, heavily militarized, and no civilians is allowed to roam even near this specified area, and soldiers just outnumber civilians. The communal house, we see that Wheelers and Byers have moved in together, and the dining table is a crowded mess of 8 people. We see Ted Wheeler is still obvious, and while Karen has returned to heavy drinking to cope with the stress that is going through. We see in the radio station the Steve and Robin. They have found a career as DJs at WSQK, that is the Squawk, and they use their broadcast to coordinate with the group using coded message, celebrating their 500th broadcast in the episode. And in the next scene, we see that Ruby is no longer reactive like they used to be, and they are on the offensive side actually. And we see Hoppers and the adults are executing crawls. So that is the clandestine mission where Hoppers sneak into Upside Down to map out sectors and look for Vecna, because they have completed 37 crawls by the start of the episode. And we see Levin's training, that is, Levin is lying in a hidden bunker, training her speed and precision and accuracy. So we see that she's just frustrated because she still can't find Vecna in that void, and Hopper refuses to let her join a crawl until she can complete her training course in just under 12 minutes. That is what intended for her and expected from her to do so. We see Dustin is the most changed out of all the individual we see in the series, because he wears his Hellfire shirt as a badge of honor, and he spends his day just cleaning the Eddie Munson's vandalized grave. And this led to a very brutal scene where the basketball team, that was led by Andy, corners and beats him, causing him to miss the crucial 38th crawl. We see in the next scene that the most unsettling subplot that introduces the new older Holly Wheeler, and the imaginary friend, that is Holly, is seen talking to someone only she can see, and for the sake she calls him Mr. What's It, or some imaginary man or something like that. We see that Holly tells Mike that Mr. What's It warned her of the monster in the Hawkins, and Mike is trying to be just a good brother, and gives her a very cleric figurine from D&D and calls her Holly the Heroic, telling her that she can cast a dimension door or a major bit of foreshadowing for the season. And the episode just climaxes during 38th crawl, because we see the military just begins a burn, that is using a massive flamethrowers that can just cause a huge amount of fire and whatnot to clear the gate area for shipment. So using this restriction, Hopper sneaks into the back of military truck and enters the Upside Down. Deep in the Upside Down, we see a Demogorgon attacks the convoy, and the truck crashes and the Hopper is injured, and he's forced to abandon his radio and escape into the dark woods alone. He's frightened, he's scared, and he just don't know what to do next. We see at the radio station, Will collapses, and for the first time in years, he doesn't just feel Vecna, but he sees through the eyes of Demogorgon. That he realizes that monster isn't targeting the soldiers actually, but it's heading towards to a specific house in the right side up. And at the back of the Wheeler house, we see the light begins to flicker into a very red and very rhythmic pulse. And Holly sees a crack that is spreading on a ceiling. And we see the Demogorgon burst through the floor of her bedroom, and that scene is just really, breathtaking and really very well done. We, as an audience, just feel the tension of the scene. And in the aftermath, we see that Will screams to the group that it's the Wheeler house, and he's at the Wheeler's house. So we gotta just listen this sentence that is spoken by the Will. And Nancy and Levin jump into a car while we see Mike and Lucas race on the bikes, but they are just miles away. As we see, the distance just shortens up. And in the final shot, we see the episode ends with the Demogorgon looming over a terrified Holly, and the screen cuts to black as we hear the chime of a grandfather clock, and not from a distance, but as we see it's coming from inside Holly's own room. And I think the episode ends just on a massive cliffhanger, because that leads directly into the episode 2 that is named The Vanishing of Holly Wheeler. And it's currently streaming, and the volume 2 that is between the episode 5 and episode 7 that expected to drop between 25th December, that is very soon. I think if we specifically talk about the ending of the Stranger Things season 5 episode 1 that is named as Crawl, I think it's a very brutal point and very uh, kind of that shifts this show from a very slow burn military thriller what we expected from the start of the movie to a more into a kind of what we can say a slow burn and a terrifying personal crisis for the villain family, because we just feel for the family, their emotions, their journey, what they are going through. And the final scene of this premiere, which debuted on 26 November 2025, they focus, I think, more on this simultaneous failure of the Crawl and the targeted abduction of the character of the Holly Wheeler. Because first of all, we see the failed Crawl. That is, the Crawl was actually group's offensive strategy. That is, Hopper would sneak into the upside down, and then just he will try to map it and find Vecna, while Levin monitored him up from right side up. And we see during the 30th attempt, the military convoy Hopper hitched a ride on uh, he's just ambushed by a pack of demogorgons. So these monsters aren't just acting like wild animals, they are very well coordinated. As a result, we see the truck crashes, the soldiers are slaughtered, and the Hawkins is forced to flee in the upside down woods and with no way to communicate with other people such as Joyce or Levin. Secondly, I will just think about the Will's awakening, because you see simultaneously at the radio station, Will Byers experiences a violent seizure, and for the first time, he doesn't just feel the shadow of the mind's flare, but he actually sees through the eyes of Demogorgon. And the Will watches as the monster bypasses the military as well as heads directly towards a residential neighborhood. So he gasps to the group that the monsters aren't just random, but they are hunting the specific vessels for Vecna. The third thing that I like to take away from the ending, that is the siege of the Wheeler house, because back in the right side up, the focus just shifts to Holly Wheeler, who has spent the episode talking to an imaginary friend that was referred to as Mr. Watson. So this was again a very important and crucial point, because while Karen and Ted are arguing, Andy Morgan burst into a Holly's bedroom, and we see Karen and Ted are severely injured, and they are just trying to reach Holly's room. By the time Mike, Nancy, and Lemon arrive, the room is just destroyed, and very small and pulsing red shift has been torn open in the floor, and Holly is gone. I think the ending one establishes several massive plot points that can be traced, and the story can be continued in a very linear way. The imaginary friend twist that was just out of the world, that was out of the context for me, because the group realized that Mr. Watson was actually the Henry Krill or the Vecna that is speaking to Holly from upside down, and he groomed her to trust him so he could take her. Then there was will factor, because Will realizes that he can hijack Vecna's hive mind, and he isn't just acting a victim anymore. He can see what Vecna is doing in real time, and then we cannot forget the importance of Max's role, because while not physically present in the Wheeler's house, the episode ends with a hint that Max's consciousness is trapped in the same dream world version of the Creel's house. And the episode just finishes with the chime of a grandfather's clock, not as kind of illusion that we would expect, but as a real sound coming from the rift in the Holly's bedroom. signaling that the final gate has been truly begun to open. So we will try to just see what kind of story unfolds in this second episode. Thank you for watching.